The story begins on a rainy night with a surprise who is walking home meeting Satan. Under the rain with a very sad and out-of-sorts face, she confused him a little, saying that Satomesen is a well-known girl at school since she only goes rarely. In addition to the fact that there are very bad rumors circulating about her because of her appearance, in short, she is a gala, thinking if he should ignore her for himself, but seeing the face of this, he can't ignore her, so this one runs the place to cover it from the rain. Why is what a man does surprising this a lot? That is why asking if the protege is doing there and answering that he is not really doing anything, saying so the bearer that if he stays and catches a cold, don't worry, it's okay to ask her. So he left her alone, the protagonist thinking to himself that this is impossible for him in this situation, and now that he sees her carefully, her uniform is too dirty and her skirt is full of wrinkles. Why doesn't she go home answering this? She have no place to go, worrying the protagonist a lot about this, asking what she means by that, thinking to himself that it is and that from the beginning there must be a reason behind all this from the moment he saw her sitting under the rain, taking his courage, and asking her if he would like to come home with him, thinking to himself that he must have a serious problem that he cannot discuss with other people, confusing him a lot, saying that after all, everything can't stay there forever. And although he doesn't know what's happening, he wants to help her by asking if she's really okay and if she really means it, with the protagonist answering yes, if she agrees with that, thinking for himself, the protagonist. When she saw the expression, she remembered that girl who always made that kind of face, saying, so, that would be a lot of help for her. The protagonist responded that then they should leave. After starting the story of these two, later that night, they end up coming to a conclusion. The protagonist's house where he ended up offering him in bathrooms giving him like this a couple of towels and clothes making so he can only thank this one thinking to himself the demon attack he is doing since they could be classmates but wondering if he is really okay letting someone especially a girl you are not at all familiar with stay at your house since no matter how you look at it has to be something legal wondering so what need did you have to do this voluntarily but thinking for a moment and even though you don't understand the reason and the situation she is going through he couldn't just let her go, although he didn't expect her to accept, thinking to himself that this is something positive. Anyway, since if a girl accepts the invitation to your house, several things could happen, resigning himself to reality saying that it is impossible for that to happen, thus starting to cook, saying that above all he is not interested since his type is the most attractive and elegant, being thus interrupted by this who is leaving the bathroom. Leaving him blank because of her beauty confusing this one a bit so asking if something is happening saying this is nothing thinking to himself that a girl just came out of the bathroom and is also wearing his clothes saying that this is simply a work of God he regrets the inconvenience responding since don't worry starting like this eating she prized by how delicious it is but saying sorry it's just fried rice although since you started living alone. Maybe your cooking has improved surprising you a little and asking if you're really living on your own. Confusing this a little since unexpectedly he didn't think he could have a conversation with her yet they respond from the protagonist saying that yes, he is temporarily living on his own, telling us that he applied to this school before knowing about his father's job transfer, so that when he was about to enter school, the transfer was not possible for him. So his father and his sister moved first and he would follow him the next year, surprising her a little, so he said that he also wants to ask her something, saying that she mentioned that she didn't have an idea where to go by asking her. So that's what she meant and of course, if she doesn't want to talk about it, he won't pressure her to give him an answer, but she still takes courage by answering that when she was a child, her parents divorced and from that moment on she began to live alone with her mother. They were poor. So in order to make ends meet after entering high school, she began to skip classes to do part-time jobs. However, when she came home after finishing one of her part-time jobs, her mother left the protagonist in shock by this, asking what she meant by that if she didn't leave him a note or something, shaking her head, and saying that a long time ago she had gotten a new boyfriend, and that's why he believes that she could have gone with him, thus touching the heart of the man. Upon hearing this, he said that after that, the owner told him that they were behind on the rent, and since he did not have enough money to carry what he could carry, he left the apartment, and when the remaining money he had began to diminish, he had no choice but to go to the park. Poor guy, thinking to himself, the protagonist is hard to believe running away with her boyfriend while her daughter works hard to help with the family's finances. That doesn't deserve to be called mother asking if the protagonist plans to do from now on answering that he does and no interrupting like this saying that if he has nowhere to go he could stay at home surprising if he is saying that he doesn't have to do it since it has cost him enough problem just entering her house. Thinking it's normal for her to feel worried plus she'll be on guard more than anything but still telling her that she promises it wasn't some dirty trick while she's here she's free to use any of the rooms empty also promising that he will not talk about her situation with anyone and although this has nothing to do with him he cannot simply leave her there after hearing her circumstance and what made him think like that was the memory of his first love that girl who was always alone in the corner of the class. Although she never responded when he spoke to her, he couldn't help but feel curious about her, and when he saw Satomi Han under the rain he felt as if his figure was superimposed with this girl saying so. At that time he felt a lot of regret from not being there with her, and this time he will not make that same mistake with Satan interrupting if he is asking her if she is really okay, answering the porta that of course, since they should help each other when they are in trouble. By asking and if he can leave it being in charge of her care, making this one blush a little. Answering that it's fine, but the protagonist saying that he only wants to promise her one thing, confusing. This one a little, the protagonist saying that he's not going to ask for the rental fee, but if you want him to do his part-time jobs in moderation, then you also want him to go to school so that he can recover his normal lifestyle, worrying him a little about that but answering that it's okay, thanking the protagonist. The next day you are preparing breakfast, thinking to himself when was the last time he did it since he normally goes to school without eating since he is too lazy to have breakfast. But they destroy he is staying with him, although it was not the way he expected. So watching like this the time is wondering if maybe she is taking that year since she thinks that maybe she was referring to yesterday because of the rain. So quickly goes up to the second floor to see how she is, realizing if she is still asleep, saying that she is really glad that she is alone asleep, but thinking to himself that seeing her like this she looks really beautiful sleeping, starting so waking up is scaring the protagonist a lot since he thinks that this will report him for harassment, so he doesn't know what to do, thus wondering our Wi-Fi where he is seeing the man from afar. Protagonist trembling, realizing that she is in his house but still wanting to continue sleeping. If the porter says that breakfast is ready, she should go wash her face and answer until she is fine, but tease still that how Vero ends up hitting herself in the head. After a while, they start eating, thinking to themselves that the protagonist is uncomfortable because he doesn't know what to talk about. Yesterday he was able to do it normally thanks to his impulse to bring the house, but now it is uncomfortable to be face to face again, and that is something that cannot be avoided since, although they are classmates, yesterday they spoke for the first time, wondering if what they did last night was really correct. Being interrupted by Saddam, who asked them if they are not going to eat, responding by telling him that he will be earlier so he should go to school a little later since they cannot go together. Suspicions will also be raised by telling him that the uniform voice doing so he leaves the thanks to the protagonist since he can do anything by answering this that it is not like that he never did any housework until high school and it was very difficult at first, but when people are cornered and incredible what they can do by telling our waifu that now they don't have to worry about what happens from now on since he is sure that he will be fine, giving him some keys. The protagonist telling him that they belong to the house, asking like this, are you sure to give them to him, answering that they will be necessary, they will live together, and they also want to make him a suggestion. Wants her to call each other by their names from now on. Don't waste time, friend, since it feels strange that they live together and behave like strangers. If you answer that, then okay, you can call her today, thinking to yourself that the laptop to cut the distance between them is important to start from scratch. Now let's move on to the school where we are introduced to a friend of the protagonist. He is the only one who knew him before since I have always been moving since he can remember, although I did not expect this guy to become more handsome than him, interrupting the protagonist's friend, completely ignoring him. The protagonist's friend's girlfriend, saying that I have always been a boyfriend since high school, but they are too clingy and disgusting, thus interrupting the moment between these two. So that they don't leave him aside doing so, I focused on the existence of this one, saying good morning, saying how it seems that he already came today, thus entering our Wi-Fi while everyone is talking behind his back. The school is full of friendly monsters at school, so he will go to greet her saying good morning, responding in this cold way, asking Sumi how our normal Wi-Fi is, responding making her happy by saying that normal is the best. Thinking to himself the Kazumi holder has a very strong mentality since she is the only one who opens our Wi-Fi without caring about the look of her other classmates. Now she lives at home so her life is fine for now, but what will happen when she transfers school, worrying a lot about what might happen, asking yes your friend what's happening by answering this and asking him if today Sam went to the same high school as them. His friend saying what the protagonist saying is that he doesn't know much about it since he moved halfway through, asking him if it's always been like this since high school. His friend responded that Nozomi and he were not in the same class, but it seems that after high school it became like a gala. In addition to the fact that she was always alone, worrying the protagonist a little about this. His friend, realizing this, told him that if he is in trouble can help him by answering the protagonist, but still thanking him. Later that night it started to rain, so it ends up being cold, making so he looks for a sweater, but as expected he will need more clothes for the future, going like this with our Wi-Fi telling him that put on the sweater since it's cold, asking this is yes you're sure. The protagonist responds that yes, thanking this one for that reason, taking advantage of our lap, asking him if he is free tomorrow, answering yes since he has nothing for tomorrow, asking him if the holder if I would like to go shopping together, being very angry about the question. The protagonist saying that he doesn't have to do it if he doesn't want to, but answering that it's fine, he just has never gone out with a boy so it's his first time leaving our Romeo for that reason, saying very nervous that's not it. It's just that he wanted her to have her own things for her daily needs and some clothes. He's really glad that I invited him, but saying that he still doesn't have enough money until I manage to get a part-time job, the protagonist responded. Don't worry about that, saying that that would be wrong, but saying that you have money saved for an emergency if you think this is the right time to use it. Also, this way you could make your life a little easier by asking if this is really okay, answering yes, so our Wi-Fi ends up thanking the protagonist. Thinking to himself this one that when their Sam thinks and she always seems to be embarrassed and given the circumstances it can be unavoidable, but every time you make that face his chest hurts a little. The next day you are already in the shopping center where it ends taking our Wi-Fi several places of clothing, but thinking to himself that there are only women here giving him of grief for this, realizing so he took reading nothing, asking if the protozoicazo did not like any clothes. He answered no, and only that he is a little confused, asking him if the guy thinks the clothes would look good on her, being a little surprised by the question but answering that he should choose what he likes and not what he likes, saying that he is already letting him pay for what he likes. I would appreciate it if he chose even just one move. Thinking to yourself that I didn't expect to be given such an important role, but if I had to choose I would want a somewhat clean and orderly design at this time of year. I could wear a bright colored blouse and a skirt, long simple. Besides, he would like it to be a dark skirt since he likes to trace the flex with his fingers, although thinking to himself that leaving aside his fetish he has no idea what girls like, so he ends up telling her our Wi-Fi does not think it would be better to wear some elegant clothes, confusing this a little, so asking why, thinking to himself, the portal that investigates a little about his way of dressing, interrupting his nap, saying that he prefers to wear something simpler. Surprising of the protagonist is a little bit about this, but still making him very happy since he shares his taste for what he ends up telling him that if he can try the mannequin said, answering since it is doing well, so he ends up waiting for it, thinking to himself that there are a lot of people here and if someone from the class saw him with it would definitely be problematic if rumors arise that they are secretly dating or if they find out that they live together, so it would be better to do the shopping and leave the place quickly, interrupting if our Wi-Fi leaving blank to this beauty portal, thinking to himself that it is a great job since it looks too good to be real, but still something bothers him a lot. Asking if our Wi-Fi doesn't look good on him, and the protagonist answers that it is not the case, she looks very beautiful with him, making her very happy. That's why the main character says that they will compare a few more and they will go home, answering that she is very excited that you can't let her continue buying more clothes, but saying that he shouldn't worry about that, he just has to trust him even though he is still there. He is sure that you will see him with that face whenever he says that he will pay in the future, and at this moment our Wi-Fi's feelings of being a nuisance must be greater than gratitude for what he does. He ends by telling him that then he can return the favor when he can afford it, and if he is still worried, by saying that they should think of this as now it is his turn to pay since, as he said yesterday, they only want them both to lead a better life because that is what a man does. By asking if this is really okay, the protagonist says yes, which ends up making her very happy, saying that then she will take him at his word, leaving the protagonist stupefied by her expression when she said that. She still felt uncomfortable, but she is still happy that he showed her his smile. After that they end up going to the beauty salon, confusing this one a little and thinking to himself the laptop couldn't help but notice her damaged hair before, and although she is a fan of black hair this time it depends on the color, but still it was that she looked very beautiful, pushing her to enter the place. Although it still made the protagonist very nervous, wondering why the hell the hairdressers are always so handsome, saying, so, this guy who has no reservation, the hairdresser responding, don't worry about what he does. He invites us to come in, but even so he ends up making our waifu very nervous, confusing the protagonist a little by saying this channel about this guy's girlfriend, leaving this one in shoga, that's why it hurt, our heartthrob responding, who looks like a synonym for her, very similar to girlfriend. Something Japanese turning berry red is why the protagonist said in his pain that if it had even been if it was not necessary to correct it, answering she is berry red that her first time is a beauty salon, so he thought he had to answer correctly. Greatly surprising the protagonist since he is being serious, thinking to yourself that from the moment he invited him to his house he had suspicions, but no matter how you look at her a delinquent, but it is totally different what he had thought, asking if this is really his first time in a beauty salon, answering yes since her mother used to cut her hair, also this color was not her choice, her mother had her hair at home and asked her to do it with her, which ended up surprising the protagonist. Asking her if then it is not okay, answering this is why leaving the protagonist since now that she thinks about it today, I mean she's not a delinquent, the reason she missed school was because she had a part-time job and she also doesn't like dyeing her hair blonde. All this time she had thought mistakenly towards her since she is just a normal girl who cared about her mother. They misunderstood everything and still kept their distance from her because of her hair color is a school attendance plus. She couldn't clear up the misunderstanding anymore because of his reserved personality, making him a little sad about all this since if he had known before things would have been different. He is still sure that they can change the future by wondering so what can he do by interrupting, so he is ready, saying that our Wi-Fi she is ready, showing us this beautiful panel, making the protagonist come and ask if this one looks strange. Answering them look very beautiful, making her very happy, so leave the place, thinking to yourself about the power that wants to have lunch. before going home, but with so many people in this place, he is worried that someone might see them, thus telling our bus to leave the place. If he is not interrupted by someone saying that the protagonist is on a date with a girl, leaving this one aside, realizing so I'm Azumi scaring this one more, asking them like this why they are here, answering this that this is the typical place for dates, showing up without Sumi with our Wi-Fi, since it seems that he didn't recognize her intervening like this. She's telling this that she changed her hair color, she always thought black would look better on her. I'm really telling her that she looks very beautiful with her new hair color, but still asking why they are alone. Now we pass by with our Wi-Fi and the protagonist no longer knows how to explain this situation, saying yes, relax since it's not like I'm going to eat it. Wondering if the owner should tell him how much since they will have arrived at this point and any attempt at deception could be discovered, and to explain the situation I must talk about personal circumstances, thinking to yourself that a place other people find out and spread rumors, this can be a blessing in disguise if these two find out. Asking if this our Wi-Fi can tell them, leaving the protagonist that they do not have to be scared since even if they do not hear it, they were not out there telling everyone since they are his friends and he knows exactly what kind of people they are. Leaving this person thoughtful for a moment but still saying that if the protagonist trusts them, she will do it too, making him happy for her trust. Addressing this by telling him that what she is about to tell him, he does not want her to leave here nor do they tell anyone else if possible. He wants them to also help, answering that yes, if it is within their reach, they will do it, so the protagonist proceeds to explain to them. That is all that has happened, leaving them aside, saying that he did not expect this, and asking the protagonist what he plans to do now. Onwards with our Wi-Fi answering this very firm that he wants to fix her situation before she becomes a second-year student, winning our Wi-Fi a little because of those words, saying this that he wants to fix a place for her to live, also that he wants to get rid of the bad rumors that circulate at school because of his appearance, and although he has not yet decided what he wants to be the one who will try to fix these things because that is what a man does by screwing our waifu even more, saying that they started to live together suddenly and they have only spoken yesterday and today, so it sounds a bit absurd, but that doesn't matter since he has decided to do it, thinking to himself that when he found out about the situation, instead of worrying he only thought about how to help her, and one of the main reasons is because our Wi-Fi he remembers the first girl he fell in love with. Oh, there is no lie about that in his heart, but still, he doesn't know that he just wants to help by answering. So he will help by asking if the protagonist, if you are sure, answering this that the product is as he thought, he is incapable of letting this type of thing go, confusing him a little, that's why saying that the proto is not someone who has the hand. He is half a man who helps without doubt as soon as the moment comes, making you cry, saying that she will also help, so you no longer end up consoling, asking the protagonist why his deadline, until he becomes a second-year student, thinking to himself the portal that he couldn't tell him before since he was afraid to say goodbye to Jodos, but now he has to do it. Thus responding to the protagonist who will change schools again, leaving these two in Chihuahua, asking him why. He answers that because of his father, since he was transferred to his job and his family had to move in the spring, but before that he applied to this school and he couldn't get the transfer when he found out, so he had to start studying here, asking like this his sister is no longer at home, answering this that now they are in his third year, so he had to move in with his parents, so he is not at home. I apologize to his parents for not having told him before, since he knows that their relationship is very special, and although he knows that it is his fault, he hopes that he can continue having a good relationship with his sister despite everything, answering yes, he shouldn't worry about it, interrupting like that she's saying that it's a shame but she will still support him in everything, asking like this he carries our Wi-Fi, they are already leaving the place, answering yes, but still she has to do some shopping, so I asked the protagonist if she can come back first. This fool gets a little excited and then tells our Wi-Fi that they can go shopping together. Asking if she is sure about that, she answers she is very happy and yes, so they end up saying goodbye to the protagonist and her boyfriend, which ends up making the protagonist disgusted by asking what the hell that was, but saying that if our Wi-Fi is happy for her then there is nothing to worry about, but still saying this to the protagonist that there are only two, they say I love you in public, answering the normal ticket since her boyfriend of illustration for I want your luck, so if they should not talk to understand each other, getting very philosophical, this saying that he is a person who believes that men and women do not understand each other and even blood relatives do not know each other. It is impossible to expect a stranger to a couple of the opposite sex to understand you. Using the example of the protagonist, since he did not know what to buy for a Wi-Fi at first and therefore that believes it is important to put your thoughts into words, it is important to be considered enough to leave things alone without asking. However, considerate should not be confused with being discreet, since if you want to be with the person you love forever you have to talk about what you have to talk, or the other one broke out, simply destroying my self-esteem, telling the to think about the feelings of our Wi-Fi, don't forget to talk to her. Especially because today they are the type of person who wins and expresses their true feelings, that's why he has to do it, and at home at night he's very thoughtful about everything. LG said, wondering if I want to let him know again and if he should send her a message or not, since he doesn't want to bother her. He's wondering if that's how a guy feels. Boyfriend waiting for his girlfriend when they live together, so the hamburgers are burning. Suddenly focusing, our guy went home saying that the mind is late, worrying the protagonist a little about this, asking him if he was running, answering this a little shy that after the shopping she did with Azumi they had lunch and talk. The time flew by, apologizing to the protagonist since she knows that he should have arrived earlier, and he responded that don't worry since he is fine and there is no need for him to apologize, so much saying that his mother used to get very angry when he came home late, making him think for himself that then she was afraid of being scolded just for coming home late. Although for a mother who abandoned her daughter, one cannot expect anything less,